Werewolves recently coming to The Sims 4 has me really wanting to do some wolf gameplay. However, I do not have the new pack and probably won't be getting it until it goes on sale or I can bundle it for a discount. Unfortunately, I've got responsibilities and adulting, blah blah blah, that are cutting into my gaming budget, and I'm sure plenty of you can relate too. So I've been wondering what I could do that would be wolf related with what I already have. So I looked to another game with wolves in it that I've been playing, Animal Crossing. I know it's a weird leap, but that's just what my brain came up with, and I want to do something with wolves right now, so we're rolling with it. I chose to make a Sims 4 build inspired by everyone's favorite wolf, Dobie. He's a cranky old man who wears adorable sweaters, and he deserves absolutely everything. Old dogs are the absolute best in my mind. Puppies, you're cute, but you cannot compete. They have this chill, contented, gives no shits energy, and I want that in my life at all times. And this is definitely what Dobie brings, so he's the focus for today's speed build. I also wanted to make it more accessible by keeping it low on packs, so I only use Snowy Escape, Cottage Living, and Seasons here. In Animal Crossing New Horizons, Dobie lives in an Asian-style home that has dark green paneling and a thatched roof. I kept those elements the same, as well as keeping it one level. He's old and doesn't need to be trekking up and down a bunch of stairs all the time, but I changed the overall shape of the home. I really like it, but honestly, it was a bitch to roof. I tried to balance cutting out footage of me struggling with this roofing with keeping it enough for you to get an idea of how it all fits together. I always find it helpful to see how Sims builders do different types of roofing so that I can learn from it. So I wanted to keep a lot of the footage in, even though it may be a bit longer than what's ideal. Between the rooms, I wanted to make it look like there were screens that could be opened and closed. To get this look, I used archways with full-length windows on either side. We don't have this style in a short wall height, but these medium windows work well. You can work around the wall height restrictions by increasing the height, placing the bigger windows, then shrinking the walls back down with Move Objects Fun. Since I use platforms on the interior, it messed with the porch stairs on either side of the house, so I had to move them out by one tile. Platforms are great to be able to use, but they do have some odd glitches. This time though, I think the workaround looks fine and adds a little dimension to the porch. In Animal Crossing, the interior of Dobie's home has lots of dark wood, vintage furniture, books, and it looks like it's maybe a study for an author or a writer. So inside I kept those same elements here, and I also brought in the Japanese and green features from the exterior. With the kitchen, I wanted it to look more dated by using these dark wood cabinets and vintage appliances from Cottage Living. I love this outside corner cabinet, but it's unfortunately hard to place anywhere other than a corner that pops out. Thankfully, there was a corner I could attach it to from the other rooms here, but I had to delete the kitchen walls, place the cabinet, then replace the walls and windows. It's annoying, but it works. In the entryway, I initially placed those coat cabinets from cats and dogs since they fit perfectly here, but I didn't want to add another pack to this build, so I replaced those by building my own with the same cabinets from the kitchen and these wall panels from Snowy Escape. I loved using these shelves throughout the home, but for some reason, nothing ever slots to wall shelves properly in this game, and the things that do have very few spots to sit on. Using the 9 key to raise things up also often doesn't work, as things end up floating a little bit. To remedy this, I use the OMSP wall shelf to place objects at different heights. It is so helpful because you can slot things to the shelf, then raise or lower it on a wall freely, pull the item off with move objects on, and it stays at that height so you can move it wherever you'd like. This is a great CC object to have for building that you don't have to keep deleting and downloading new versions of with every game update, like script mods such as Twisted Maxie's tool mod, which is great if you want to use all those features that they have, but if you just want a little piece of CC to put things on shelves more easily, then the wall shelf is a really great option. Initially, I tried to place the living room over here, but it just wasn't working with the bathroom door and everything was way too cramped. So I ended up swapping the living room and dining areas completely. The rooms flow much better now, and I was able to fit in multiple overflowing bookshelves, which was a priority for Dobie. I know a lot of speed builders don't like furnishing bathrooms and usually cut them out, but I actually really like building bathrooms. Maybe because in real life my top priorities in a home are a nice bathroom and a nice kitchen, so those end up being rooms I really enjoy building in The Sims. I think this bathroom in particular is maybe my favorite room in the whole house. The wooden bath space looks so cozy and relaxing, and the stone shower area looks like it'd feel like you're in a waterfall. Having the toilet in a separate room is also really nice, especially if you have multiple people in a house with limited bathrooms. Someone can use the toilet area and someone can use the sink area at the same time while still having privacy. I love this old-fashioned floral wallpaper in the bedroom. I wanted to make sure this bedroom didn't lean too frilly or delicate though, so I tried to balance it out with a bed that leaned in the opposite direction, and this one definitely says Grumpy Grandpa to me. Dobie has a big, chunky, traditional style desk in Animal Crossing that's covered in papers and a typewriter. This Space Game desk embodies that really well. We also got a typewriter in Cottage Living, so I was able to include that here too. I liked the idea of including another bookshelf in here, but figured a dresser would be more practical, so I swapped it out. If you're wondering how I'm accessing debug items so easily and why they're organized, that's because I use Twisted Mexi's Better Build By mod for this. This mod has more features than this, but the organized debug is so helpful for builds. This is one of the script mods I keep in my game at all times, and I highly recommend it. This is an Animal Crossing inspired build, so I had to include a crafting table. This woodworking table seemed like a natural replacement. I'd like to think Dobie is into whittling and woodworking, and perhaps he even built this house in his younger years. It took me way longer than I'd like to admit to shape this pond, so I ended up cutting most of it out. We'll take a closer look at it though in the tour at the end. Dobie's catchphrase is Om, which leads me to believe he's into meditating. So I made a little meditation spot at the back here for him. Dobie has a nature hobby, so I really wanted to create a lush yard for him. I imagine he also likes gardening, so I created an area here for that too. I made sure to use raised garden beds, as those would be a little easier on his joints than gardening directly in the ground. Although I wish we had raised beds that were even higher in the game. Besides kitchens and bathrooms, my other favorite part of building is landscaping. I probably spend as much time on the landscaping as I do on the furnishing, maybe even more sometimes. I would have loved to include all of it here, but even sped up, it was way too long. I kept some of the main portions, but we'll take a closer look at everything at the end. I really like the lush, overgrown, naturalistic look of this landscaping. I think that fits with Dobie's love of nature and the fact that he's probably not fussed about maintaining a super neat, formal garden. Both because of his no-fuss, grumpy demeanor, as well as the fact that it'd probably be way too much work for his age. In preparation for this video, I looked up how to pronounce Dobie and have had to constantly remind myself how to say it right this whole time. This is probably because when I was younger, I pronounced Dobby from Harry Potter as Dobie, and I didn't learn the right way to pronounce their name until I was much older, so I had to put a lot of effort into correcting myself. So now I think I just default to thinking Dobie isn't the right way to say this name, so now my brain is all confused. Please tell me some of you have also had issues with needing to relearn how to pronounce names from games or books. This was my first speed build, and I definitely learned a lot about how I build while I was editing, which I wasn't necessarily expecting to learn much about. So I moved the camera a ton to look at things at all these different angles, and I bounce around to different areas a lot instead of fully completing one section and then moving on to the other section. That works for me in game, but in a video it means I have tons to cut out to make it more watchable. So that's what's up with all the jumps, if you noticed. If not, I never said anything here. I'm gonna have to try adjusting my building style to keep speed building recording in mind. So that's pretty much it for this speed build. I did have to cut out quite a bit, so let's go ahead and take a look at the final product in live mode. Here is the final build. I think this green siding, the roof texture, and this door are a near perfect match to what Dobie has in his house in Animal Crossing. So let's go ahead and take a look inside first. We're going to go right through the front door here and into the entryway. So we've got a spot here. You can place your bag, you can set down your jacket here, and then you're going to step up into the living room area. So this is what it looks like after I went ahead and kind of moved everything around and swapped around the floor plan. I tried to make all of the rooms in this house look like they've got a collection of different items that have been acquired over time, so nothing is super new, but altogether I wanted it to look very lived in, and I think we definitely did that here. So then we're going to move on into the kitchen through here. I'm going to step down, and the kitchen is definitely an older kitchen. It probably hasn't been updated in like decades, but I really like it this way. So I love the dark woods mixed with the dark greens and these lighter cream accents. I think altogether it looks quite pretty. So then through here and up another step is the dining area. I really like the shelves above these windows and doors. You can definitely add some more knickknacks up here, but I didn't want to overload this lot with too many objects, especially since I really like to kind of go all out with the landscaping. So then through this door is my favorite room, maybe surprisingly, which is the bathroom. I don't think many people really like bathrooms all that much, but I do. Here is the toilet area. It's in a separate room, which is very handy. It just seems like it's a really great place to kind of relax and unwind. It kind of gives me this vintage mountain spa vibe, and I want to just be here in real life. Okay, so then to get to the bedroom, we're going to go back out here and through this doorway. It leads into this sort of breezeway type of area. To the left there is the side yard, and then over to the right is the front yard. We've got our crafting table there. We've got our bonsai tree. And then we'll go through this set of doors into the bedroom. Now don't worry, I did notice that the shelf I had originally put over the bed was from a different pack. So I just swapped that out here. This bedroom gives me major grandparent room vibes, so much so that I can almost smell it. I'm thinking some sort of antique store meets a bookshop. And then over here we've got Dobie's desk. I can imagine him first thing in the morning sitting down to write with his hot cup of coffee. I feel like if you're in here sitting down, smelling all those books and the coffee, listening to that typewriter, it would be probably impossible to feel stressed. It would just all melt away. And I love that feeling that this room gives me. Okay, so now moving on to the yard area, which is my next favorite spot. You're going to go down this breezeway hall. To the right, we've got these wall planters. You step down into this beautiful pond area. It took me way too long to figure out the kind of shape I wanted to go with the pond, but I think it turned out good, especially since I kind of put a bunch of stuff around here to make it look really overgrown and natural. I put plenty of spawners around, so you can see we've got some fish, we've got some bugs, so it's got lots of different life kind of buzzing around here. And then over to the side here, we have the little gardening area. We've got our bees, we've got our raised planters boxes, so Dobie can kind of come out here and do all his nature hobby activities. And you can see there's plenty of plants and things. We're going to go around the corner here. And to the left, we've got the doors that go back into the dining room. And then at the end here is the meditation spot. If you have backyard stuff, I think it is, adding in some of those bamboo wood chimes would be a really great final touch for this spot here. We're going to go down to the side. I tried to look at every angle here and add plenty of shrubs and grasses and bushes and mushrooms and rocks and things to make it look very overgrown but still lush and beautiful. So this door you see here goes into the kitchen. We've got a little entryway and the trash area out there. And let's go ahead and get back to the front. So yeah, I definitely struggled with kind of finalizing this build and figuring out everything I wanted to do and how I wanted everything to look. But in the end, I think it turned out quite well. It looks like it's been here for a long time. It's a bit worn, but it's still so cozy and relaxed with so much natural beauty. Just like an old dog or an old wolf, and I think it suits Dobie really well. So this probably isn't the wolf-related content any of us were kind of expecting after the Sims 4 Werewolf pack came out, but I know that this is the wolf content that I needed right now. I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, send a like my way and subscribe for more videos. Remember, be kind to yourself today, and I'll see you next time.